The lights dim to black. A heartbeat begins to pulse through the speakers, slow, steady, deliberate. Then the screens ignite with images of funnels, faces, and flashing headlines. How to make money online. The secrets of six-figure success of the million-dollar formula. The heartbeat grows faster. The crowd leans forward. Then, in the middle of the stage, a single spotlight cuts through the dark. Russell Brunson walks out. No slides. No mic stand. Just a whiteboard behind him and a look in his eyes that says this is going to be different. He pauses, smiles, looks around the room, and then he says, "You've been lied to." The crowd goes silent. He lets the tension hang for a beat before continuing. You've been told that success online is about algorithms, hacks, and secrets that nobody else knows. You've been told that if you just post enough, spend enough, or shout loud enough, you'll win. But I'm here to tell you, that's not how this game works. He steps forward. His voice deepens. A success isn't about clicks. It's about connection. It's not about traffic. It's about transformation. And it's not about money. It's about meaning. Because if your business doesn't serve, it doesn't scale. And if it doesn't change lives, it won't change yours. The crowd starts to murmur. You can feel the shift. Russell continues, pacing slowly, his tone rising with every sentence. When I was a kid, I used to collect junk mail. I didn't know why at the time, but I was obsessed with how a few words on a page could make someone feel something. Years later, I realized that was marketing. That was psychology. That was the secret to freedom. He stops and looks directly into the crowd. You see, I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up connected. I grew up curious. And curiosity is what builds empires. He pauses again, scanning the room. So if you came here tonight thinking this is just another marketing talk, you're wrong. This isn't about getting rich quick. This is about getting free forever. The crowd cheers. He raises a hand for silence. But freedom, real freedom, doesn't come from chasing more. It comes from mastering less. It comes from understanding people so deeply that you can serve them better than anyone else in the world. And when you do that, the world rewards you. He starts drawing a funnel on the whiteboard. This, he says, tapping the top of the funnel, isn't a diagram. It's a story. It's the path your customer takes from pain to promise, from problem to purpose. And your job, your calling, is to guide them through it. The room goes still. Every eye follows his hand as he draws arrows connecting each step of the funnel. This, he says, isn't just a way to make money. It's a way to make meaning. Because when you learn how to do this right, when you learn how to communicate, connect, and convert, your message doesn't just make sales. It makes movements. He steps back, drops the marker, and spreads his arms wide. That's what DotCom Secrets is about. It's not a book. It's a blueprint. It's the underground map to turning your message into momentum and momentum into freedom. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. He smiles, that confident, quiet smile of a man who's seen lives change. Also, if you're ready to stop guessing, if you're ready to stop chasing, if you're ready to build something that lasts, he pauses, leans forward, and lowers his voice. Then welcome to the beginning of your new life. The lights burst back on. Music explodes. The audience roars. And DotCom Secrets, the live masterclass of freedom, begins. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with junk mail. Most kids collected baseball cards or comic books. Me, I collected advertisements. I'd rush to the mailbox before anyone else could get there, flip through the stack of envelopes, and hunt for the ones that felt alive. The ones that shouted, "Open me!" There was something magical about them. The way a few words, a headline, a story could pull me in and make me want something I didn't even know I wanted. It was like discovering a secret language, a language that could make people move, buy, and believe. Back then, I didn't know it was called direct response marketing. I didn't know names like Gary Halbert or Dan Kennedy. I didn't understand that what I was holding in my hands were the blueprints for influence and persuasion. All I knew was that these letters could make things happen. They could turn ideas into money. They could connect a business to a human being. And deep down, even as a kid in a small Idaho town, I felt it. This was power. Not the kind that destroys or manipulates, but the kind that creates, that builds, that liberates. Fast forward a few years. I'm a broke college student, wrestling in the mornings, eating ramen noodles at night, trying to figure out life. I didn't come from money. I didn't have connections. But I had curiosity. And curiosity is the currency of creation. One day, I saw an ad for how to make money online. Most people laughed it off. But that same kid who used to collect junk mail couldn't look away. I ordered it. I devoured every page. And that night, something in me shifted. See, the dream of financial freedom doesn't start with greed. It starts with the desire to build something that works for you instead of against you. I realized that if I could learn how to sell online, I could buy back my time. I could control my life. I could build something lauded. That's the real dream. Not Lamborghinis or mansions, but control. Freedom, choice. So I started building. Bad websites, ugly offers, confusing pitches. I did everything wrong. But I didn't quit. I failed forward. I tested. I tweaked. I learned. And with every mistake, I discovered a little more about what made people say yes. Because here's the truth. People don't buy products. They buy transformation. They buy a better version of themselves. One night, it clicked. I was staring at my computer screen, frustrated, ready to give up again. But instead, I asked myself a question that changed my life. What if selling isn't about convincing? What if it's about connecting? That was the moment I discovered what would become DotCom Secrets. Because the secret isn't the website, it isn't the product, it's the funnel, the process. The sequence, the story. It's the path you build that takes a stranger and turns them into a raving fan, not by pushing harder, but by understanding deeper. A funnel isn't a tool, it's a journey, and every journey starts with trust. They think business is about attention, but attention without trust is noise, and noise doesn't build wealth, it builds fatigue. When you learn to build trust at scale, everything changes. That's when people stop scrolling past your ads and start listening. That's when your audience stops being an algorithm and becomes a tribe. That's when your message starts making money while you sleep. And that's the dream, right? Waking up to freedom. But freedom requires foundation. In those early days, I didn't have the system. I was working 16-hour days, chasing every idea that promised a shortcut. But there are no shortcuts, only principles. And one of the biggest principles I learned was this. If you want to change your life, change the way you communicate value. Because money is just the byproduct of value delivered and trust earned. Think about it. Every dollar that enters your bank account came from someone else's. Someone who believed that what you offered would make their life better. The internet didn't change that. It amplified it. What I discovered, what became my obsession, was that you could automate trust. You could build systems that communicated your story, your value, your transformation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what a funnel really is, a story that sells even when you're not there to tell it. But before I understood that, I had to unlearn everything the world told me about selling, because the world says, sell the product. But the truth is, people don't want your product. They want the result. They want the after picture. If you can paint that picture better than anyone else, they'll follow you anywhere. I tested that principle over and over. I created a potato gun DVD. Yes, a potato gun. And used it to test how far I could take what I was learning. I wrote a sales letter, built a simple website, and connected it to a funnel. No fancy tech, no investors, just a story, a headline, and an irresistible offer. Within weeks it worked. People bought. It wasn't because of the product, it was because of the process. That's when I realized I'd discovered something that could change everything. Not just for me, but for anyone willing to learn the system. Most people fail online, not because their product isn't good, but because they don't know how to position it. They don't understand how to capture attention, build trust, and guide people through the journey of belief. Because that's what marketing really is. Belief transfer. When you sell, you're not pushing an object, you're transferring conviction. You're saying, I believe in this so deeply that you should too. That's why confidence sells more than features ever will. You don't need the best product, you need the best story. And that's what I learned the hard way. Story is the secret structure behind every successful business. You can have a website with the same design as mine, the same funnel, even the same script. But if your story isn't authentic, it won't connect. Because people can copy your tactics, but they can't copy your truth. That's why DotCom Secrets isn't a book about tactics. It's a philosophy. It's about building something that lasts because it's built on human psychology, not algorithms. The internet changes every day, but people People haven't changed in thousands of years. They still want the same things: connection, belonging, transformation, freedom. If you learn how to speak to those desires, you'll never be broke again. That's why I tell every entrepreneur, stop trying to be clever. Start being clear. Clarity sells. When you can clearly communicate the value of what you do, when you can articulate the pain, the possibility, and the path, people will line up to buy from you. That's not manipulation. That's service. Selling is serving. When you truly believe your product will make someone's life better, you have a moral obligation to sell it to them. Because if you don't, someone else, someone less qualified, less honest, will. That's the mindset that changed my life. It's not about chasing money. It's about creating impact, and money follows impact like a shadow follows light. Every funnel you build, every message you craft, every offer you create should come from that principle. And when you live by it, something beautiful happens. Business stops being a hustle and starts being a calling. You stop chasing customers and start attracting believers. You stop selling products and start changing lives. You stop surviving and start scaling. Because when your purpose aligns with your process, profit becomes inevitable. That's what this journey is all about. It's not about clicks or conversions. It's about connection. Connection with your dream customer. Connection with your mission. Connection with your own potential. Because when those three connections align, the impossible becomes automatic. And that's what DotCom Secrets really teaches. Not how to build a funnel, but how to build freedom. Freedom of time. Freedom of purpose. Freedom of legacy. And it all starts with this: curiosity, courage, and a commitment to never stop learning. Because the secret to doing the impossible online isn't technology, it's psychology. And the higher your customer climbs, the more value they receive, the more transformation they experience, and the more trust they have in you. But here's the key. Each step must make the next one inevitable. You're not pushing them up the ladder, you're guiding them. You're building belief at each step. Belief in themselves, belief in the process, belief in you. Because people don't buy when they understand, they buy when they believe. That's what we're really selling: belief. You're not in the business of selling courses, coaching, or consulting. You're in the business of transforming belief systems. When you can shift a person's belief from a "that won't work for me" to "that's exactly what I need," you've won. And once you know how to build belief, you can sell anything, ethically, powerfully, and profitably. I learned this while studying great marketers, the ones who could move nations with their words. They didn't rely on logic. They understood emotion. They knew that every buying decision is emotional first, rational second. That's why stories sell. Data informs. Logic convinces. Keys. But stories transform. Stories are how humans have always learned, loved, and led. The greatest teachers, prophets, and entrepreneurs all understood this. And in business, stories do the same thing. They bypass skepticism and speak directly to the heart. That's why your funnels must be built around storytelling. Your sales page isn't a pitch, it's a story. Your webinar isn't a presentation, it's a story. Your emails aren't announcements, they're stories. And every story you tell must follow the same arc: the hero's journey. The hero's journey isn't just a Hollywood framework, it's the human one. It's the same path your customer walks through life. From pain to promise, from struggle to success. You are not the hero of the story. They are. You're the guide. You're Yoda, not Luke. You're showing your customer that you've been where they are and that you've found a way out, and now you're offering them the map. That's what I realized early on. People don't want another expert. They want a guide. So every time you tell your story, you're not showing off your success. You're showing them what's possible for them. You're saying, "Oh, look, I've been there too. I've faced the same fears, made the same mistakes, but I found the path, and now I'm here to help you do the same." That's what creates trust, because trust doesn't come from authority. It comes from authenticity. You don't have to be perfect to lead. You just have to be honest. And that honesty, when paired with skill, creates connection that no ad budget can buy. Now let's talk about the financial side, because this isn't just about inspiration, it's about independence. When you structure your business around the value ladder, you're building financial freedom by design. Most businesses rely on one product, one sale, one transaction. That's dangerous. Because if that one stream dries up, everything collapses. But when you have a value ladder, you create multiple layers of value and revenue. You turn one customer into a lifetime relationship. You're no longer chasing new buyers, you're serving existing believers. That's how you build sustainable income. That's how you create financial freedom. And the beauty of it, you don't need millions of customers. You just need 1,000 true fans, 1,000 people who love what you do, buy everything you release, and share your message because it changed their life. 1,000 fans can create millions in revenue if you serve them deeply. That's the secret nobody talks about. Depth beats width. You don't need to reach the whole world. You just need to reach your world. Once I understood that, everything in my business got simpler. Because marketing stopped being about manipulation and became about multiplication. Multiplying impact, multiplying belief, multiplying freedom. That's when I built ClickFunnels. When you build an irresistible offer, you're doing one thing, stacking value until the price feels small. Think about it like this. Your offer isn't your product. Your offer is the dream outcome, the tools, the support, and the emotion all wrapped together in one package. When you stack enough value, price becomes irrelevant. I learned this from watching late-night infomercials, the same kind I used to collect as a kid. They'd start by showing you the problem, the pain. Then they'd show you the product that solved it. But then they'd do something brilliant. They'd start stacking bonuses. But wait, there's more, they'd say. And with every added piece, your brain would start to calculate. That's worth it. That's valuable. That's useful. By the time they finally revealed the price, it felt like a seal. That's how you create irresistible offers, by over-delivering so much that people feel crazy not to say yes. But it's not just about piling on bonuses. It's about alignment. Each element of your offer has to move your customer closer to their goal. It's not about adding random stuff. It's about creating synergy between every piece. So when I design an offer, I ask myself 3 questions. What's the dream result my customer wants? What's standing in their way? And what can I give them that removes friction and makes success inevitable? Every product, every course, every coaching program is built around those 3 questions. And once you understand that formula, you can create offers that print freedom. Because irresistible offers don't just make money, they make impact. Here's why that matters. People think business is about numbers, but it's really about emotion. People buy based on emotion and then justify with logic. If you want to sell more, stop trying to convince people. Start connecting with them. Emotion drives decisions. Logic justifies them. That's why story is the most powerful sales weapon you'll ever use. Every irresistible offer needs a story that anchors it. The story gives context to the product. It transforms it from an object into a bridge between where your customer is and where they want to be. The story doesn't just explain what you're selling, it explains why it matters. And the why is where connection happens. Let me tell you something that will change the way you sell forever. Your story isn't about you, it's about... Your story is the mirror your customer looks into and says, "That's me." That's the real secret. When your story becomes their story, belief transfers instantly. Every product that's ever changed my life started with a story that made me feel understood. It wasn't about the product, it was about the transformation. And that's exactly how you build movements. When people feel understood, they feel safe. When they feel safe, they buy. If you can master storytelling, you can sell anything. That's why I built all my funnels around stories. Each step, from the headline to the upsell page, is a continuation of a narrative. You're guiding your customer through an emotional experience, one that replaces doubt with belief. Belief is currency. Money moves toward belief. For every time someone buys from you, what they're really buying is a piece of your certainty. And here's what's beautiful. You can engineer belief. You can build it step by step, story by story, moment by moment. That's what I call the off funnel of belief. Every page of your funnel builds another layer of certainty. Your ad sparks curiosity. Your landing page builds trust. Your story builds connection. Your offer builds excitement. Your testimonials build proof. And your guarantee removes fear. When all those pieces align, you don't have to sell. Your funnel sells for you. That's when your business becomes freedom on autopilot. And the best part? Not manipulation, it's clarity. You're not forcing anyone to buy something. You're helping them finally see the value of something that can change their life. That's what ethical persuasion is. And ethical persuasion is the foundation of true wealth. Because when you build your business on service and truth, your income grows in proportion to your impact. That's the law of entrepreneurship. Serve deeply, sell powerfully. When you do that, you'll never worry about money again. Because money always follows mastery. And mastery comes from repetition, not theory. I spent years testing these ideas, tweaking them, refining them, breaking them. I failed more times than I can count. But every failure gave me data, and every data point brought me closer to understanding human behavior. Here's something I discovered along the way. People don't resist buying. They resist risk. Your job as a marketer is to eliminate risk. Eliminate risk. That's why guarantees work. That's why testimonials work. That's why over-delivering works. You're lowering their perceived risk until the only logical decision left is yes. That's how you build belief. That's how you make buying feel safe. Because when people believe they can win with you, they'll follow you anywhere. And that's what financial freedom really is. Not just having money, but having trust at scale. When people trust you, your funnels become effortless. And trust isn't something you demand. It's something you demonstrate. You demonstrate it by caring more. You demonstrate it by showing up over and over again. You demonstrate it by solving real problems, not imaginary ones. And over time, that trust compounds. That's the compound effect of value. Every person you serve becomes an advocate. Every testimonial becomes leverage. Every funnel you build becomes a machine that works harder than you ever could alone. And when that machine is built on integrity, it creates wealth that lasts. That's what I want for every entrepreneur I teach, not just income, but impact. Not just sales, but sustainability. Because real wealth isn't just what you earn, it's what you build, and what you build should outlive you. Every funnel you launch, every offer you craft, every person you serve. It's all part of a legacy, a ripple effect, a movement that will continue long after you're gone. That's what DotCom Secrets is about. It's not about tools. It's not about templates. It's about transformation. Transformation of yourself, your customers, and your purpose. When you start seeing business through that lens, everything changes. You stop thinking like a marketer and start thinking like a messenger, and messengers move markets. So the next time you sit down to create an offer, don't ask, what can I sell? Ask, what can I give? What can I build that will change someone's belief so deeply they thank me for charging them? Because when you serve with that level of conviction, selling becomes sacred. And sacred selling creates financial freedom. That's what I want you to take from this. Every funnel, every offer, every dollar you earn should serve a higher purpose. Because when your purpose drives your profit multiplies your purpose. That's the loop of legacy. And once you've tasted that, you'll never settle for transactional again. You'll build transformational businesses, you'll build freedom that compounds. And you'll realize that the real secret of .com isn't technology, it's transformation. That's the secret behind every irresistible offer, every thriving funnel, every empire built online. It's not about selling products, it's about serving people. And when you commit to that fully, the impossible becomes inevitable. Because once you understand people, funnels stop being pages. They become promises. Promises that pay. There's one skill that separates the good entrepreneurs from the great ones, the ones who make noise from the ones who make history. It's not copywriting, it's not ad targeting, it's communication. The ability to talk to people in a way that feels personal, real, and irresistible. That's the heart of everything we do. And when I finally understood that, my business exploded. Not because I learned a new software trick, but because I learned how to connect. When you think about it, every sale is just a conversation, a moment where two humans connect through emotion and belief. But here's the problem. Most entrepreneurs forget the human part. They automate everything, talk in templates, sound like robots, and wonder why no one's listening. You can't automate authenticity. You can't outsource empathy. You can't fake connection. People don't buy when they're convinced. They buy when they feel connected. When I first started sending emails to my list, I thought they had to sound professional. I'd sit there trying to sound like a real business, filling my emails with corporate language and perfect grammar. And guess what? Nobody read them. Nobody cared. They felt fake because they were fake. Then one day I sent an email that changed everything. It wasn't planned. It wasn't polished. I just told a story. I wrote about something dumb that happened that morning. My kids had spilled cereal on my laptop, I was running late for a meeting, and I somehow managed to lock myself out of the house in socks. It was chaotic and ridiculous, but it was real. I hit send without thinking, and the response blew me away. My inbox exploded with replies, people laughing, sharing their own stories, thanking me for being real. And that's when I got it. People crave connection. They don't want perfection. They want you. That's where the Seinfeld email idea was born. Seinfeld was a show about nothing, but it made millions of people tune in every week because it was about life. It was about moments, quirks, the small stuff that made people feel seen. And that's exactly how communication works online. It's not always about selling, it's about showing up. It's about being consistent. It's about building a relationship that feels natural, not transactional. When you email your audience every day, not with sales pitches, but with stories, you build trust. They start seeing you as a friend, not a marketer. And when a friend makes a recommendation, what happens? You listen, you trust, you buy. The greatest secret in marketing is consistency. Not consistency in ads or posts or hacks, but consistency in connection. If you can show up every day with value, authenticity, and honesty, you'll own your audience's attention for life. That's what people don't get. Attention is earned, not demanded. And once you earn it, it's the most valuable asset you'll ever own. When you build a real relationship with your list, when your followers see your name in their inbox and get excited instead of annoyed, you've won. That's when your emails stop being messages and start being moments. And when every message feels like a moment, your business becomes unstoppable. Here's something I learned from studying human behavior. People remember emotion, not information. You can give them the best data in the world, but if you don't make them feel, it won't stick. Emotion is the glue that makes messages unforgettable. That's why every story matters. Even the small ones, especially the small ones. Your audience doesn't connect with your success. They connect with your struggle. They don't admire perfection. They admire persistence. When you tell stories that reveal your flaws, your failures, that's when people see themselves in you. And when they see themselves in you, they trust you. That's the foundation of every great business, trust built through transparency. I've told stories about things that went wrong, funnels that flopped, launches that bombed, nights when I doubted myself. And every time, those stories connected deeper than any success story ever could. Because people don't just want proof that you can win, they want hope that they can too. That's the heart of communication, giving people hope through honesty. When you start speaking from that place, your words hit differently. Your stories carry weight. Your messages move people. And the best part, it's not a tactic. It's just being human. We live in an age where everyone's pretending. Highlight reels, filters, fake smiles. Everyone's performing. So when someone shows up with authenticity, it cuts through the noise like a knife. That's your unfair advantage. You don't need to be louder. You need to be real. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to care more than anyone else. Because caring scales. If you can make your followers feel seen, they'll stay. If you can make them feel heard, they'll buy. That's how communication turns into conversion. See, communication isn't about talking. It's about transferring belief. Every word you speak, every email you send, every story you tell should move your audience one step closer to believing in themselves, their dream, and you as the guide who can take them there. That's the holy trinity of storytelling. Belief in self, belief in the process, belief in the guide. If you can build all three, you'll never struggle to sell again. Because selling isn't about pushing products, it's about building belief. Let's talk about consistency again. Because it's not just about frequency, it's about emotional rhythm. People like predictability. They want to know what to expect. That's why the Seinfeld emails worked so well. They created rhythm, a heartbeat for... When your audience knows you'll show up every day, not to take, but to give, they start to depend on you. You become part of their routine. And when that happens, you're no longer just a marketer. You're a mentor, a companion, a trusted voice. That's how you build movements. Movements aren't built on products. They're built on people who feel seen and led. Every story you tell is a brick in the foundation of your movement. And here's where it gets powerful. Once your movement grows, your message amplifies itself. Your audience starts sharing your stories. They start spreading your message. You go from marketer to messenger to missionary. That's how you go from making income to making impact. And the beauty of it all, the deeper your connection, the higher your conversion. People don't buy from funnels, they buy from feelings. If your funnel feels cold, people leave. If it feels personal, people lean in. That's why the most profitable funnels are the ones that feel like conversations, not campaigns. You don't have to pretend to be someone else. You just have to show up as yourself consistently, authentically, and with purpose. And that's liberating, isn't it? You don't have to chase trends. You don't have to fake energy. You just have to be honest. And in doing that, you build freedom. Because financial freedom always begins with emotional freedom. The freedom to be yourself. Once you realize you can build a business being fully unapologetically you, that's when you win. That's when business becomes effortless. Because now your communication isn't work, it's extension. It's you living your truth out loud in service of others, and that's when people can't help but be drawn to you, because authenticity is magnetic, and magnetism creates momentum. When you master this level of communication, everything in your business compounds. Your audience grows faster. Your offers convert higher. Your funnels feel alive, because every word, every message, every story carries energy, the energy of purpose. And purpose is the highest currency there is. That's why I say all the time, you don't need to be the best marketer. You need to be the best communicator of your belief. That's the real secret. People follow belief. If you believe deeply enough, if you communicate clearly enough, and if you show up consistently enough, people will follow. They'll buy. They'll tell others. And that's how you scale not just your business, but your impact. Communication is the bridge between your message and your movement. It's the thing that turns ideas into income and income into influence. And the crazy part, the more you do it, the better you get. You start to find your rhythm, your voice, your truth. And when you speak from that truth, not to impress, but to impact, you become unstoppable. Because there's no algorithm for authenticity. There's no shortcut to sincerity. But there is a reward, the kind of financial and emotional freedom that comes from knowing your business isn't built on tricks. It's built on trust. And trust compounds faster than traffic ever will. That's how I've built everything I have. Funnels fade, ads change, platforms rise and fall. But communication, real human connection that never dies. That's why every entrepreneur, every visionary, every freedom seeker must master the art of storytelling. Because stories sell. But more importantly, stories serve. They bridge the gap between confusion and clarity, between struggle and success, between dreams and decisions. That's what we do as entrepreneurs. We're storytellers of transformation. And if you learn to tell your story authentically, consistently, emotionally, you'll never be broke again, because stories create belief. And belief creates business. That's the rhythm. That's the power. That's the secret. And once you've mastered it, your audience won't just follow your message. They'll become part of it. That's when you stop being an entrepreneur and start being a movement. There comes a moment in every entrepreneur's journey when you realize that your dream is no longer just about survival. In the beginning, you're fighting to prove yourself, fighting to pay bills, fighting to get your first customer, fighting to believe that this crazy idea in your head might actually work. But once it starts working, something shifts. The hunger is still there, but it's different. It's not about escape anymore. It's about expansion. It's about scale. That's the stage most people fear, the scaling stage, because it's where you stop thinking like a hustler and start thinking like a builder. You stop thinking in terms of effort and start thinking in terms of systems. You stop trading time for money and start trading systems for freedom. And that's when things get real. Because when you scale, you come face to face with your greatest challenge. Not the market, not the algorithm, not your competitors, but yourself. I had that moment. I remember sitting in my office at 2 a.m. surrounded by whiteboards covered in funnels and sticky notes. ClickFunnels was growing faster than anything I'd ever imagined. We had thousands of entrepreneurs joining every week. Lives were changing. Stories were pouring in. On paper, I was living the dream. But deep down, I felt trapped. I had built a business that depended on me for everything. If I stopped, everything stopped. And that's when I realized something that changed my life forever. You can't scale chaos. Scaling chaos only multiplies stress. Freedom doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing less strategically. That night, I asked myself a question that completely reframed my business. What if I could remove myself from every process without removing my presence from the mission? That's when I started building systems. See, most entrepreneurs think scaling means working harder. They think it means adding more funnels, more offers, more ads, more people. But that's how you burn out. Scaling doesn't mean adding more. It means refining what already works until it works without you. That's when you go from operator to owner. The operator asks, how do I get this done? The owner asks, who can do this for me? The operator builds with effort. The owner builds with structure. If you want to scale, you have to learn to let go of control. You have to trust systems. You have to build teams that carry the vision forward. That was one of the hardest lessons I ever learned, to stop being the hero and start being the architect. When you're the hero, everything depends on you. When you're the architect, everything depends on the structure. The difference between entrepreneurs who burn out and those who build empires is systems. Systems create freedom. They free you from daily operations so you can focus on what really matters: vision, creation, leadership. And here's the truth. The biggest bottleneck in every company is the founder who won't let go. You can't be the visionary and the janitor at the same time. You have to decide what your time is worth. Because if you're doing $10 tasks, you'll never build a $10 million company. Every hour you spend doing something that can be delegated is an hour stolen from your destiny. And the only way to grow past that is leverage. Leverage is the secret word that separates freedom from frustration. There are 3 kinds of leverage: people, systems, and platforms. When you combine all 3, your business becomes a machine that scales itself. People give you leverage through delegation. Systems give you leverage through consistency. Platforms give you leverage through amplification. When you learn to use all 3 together, that's when your message becomes unstoppable. That's when you turn funnels into empires. But here's the thing, scaling doesn't mean losing your soul. It means scaling your soul. It means taking the values, stories, and principles that built your business in the beginning and multiplying them through structure. Every funnel, every campaign, every piece of content should carry your energy, your voice, your belief, even when you're not there. That's how you scale authenticity. That's how you build trust at scale. Because at the end of the day, people don't want bigger companies. They want bigger connection. And that's your job as a leader, to protect that connection while expanding your reach. Scaling is just storytelling multiplied. When you master your message, you can hand it to others. You can train a team to communicate your vision. You can automate systems that deliver your message 24/7. You can use technology not to replace humanity, but to magnify it. That's the paradox most people miss. Automation doesn't kill connection, it protects it. When you automate the repetitive, you free up space for the meaningful. And when you automate your funnel, your emails, your follow-ups, you're not removing yourself, you're duplicating yourself. Or duplicating yourself. That's how I see every funnel I build. It's not a tool, it's a clone of my best self. It's me at my most confident, most persuasive, most clear, speaking to my audience even while I sleep. That's how you scale presence. And when presence scales, income follows, but income without impact is empty. That's why every system you build should serve both profit and purpose. Because the most dangerous thing about success is forgetting why you started. You didn't start this to build funnels. You started this to build freedom. Freedom for your family. Freedom for your team. Freedom for your clients. That's the real win. Financial freedom isn't just having money. It's having the power to choose what to work on, who to work with, and how to live. And scaling is what makes that possible. Because when your business runs without you, your life finally belongs to you. But don't get me wrong, scaling isn't just strategy, it's spiritual. Because when you let go of control, you have to trust. Trust the process, trust your people, trust the vision. And that's what makes scaling the ultimate test of faith. Do you believe enough in your mission to let others carry it forward? Do you trust that the message you've built will keep growing even when you're not pushing it every second? That's leadership. Leadership isn't doing everything yourself. It's empowering others to do it better. And that's how freedom compounds, because every person you help becomes a ripple, and those ripples turn into waves, and those waves become the tide that changes everything. That's why I always tell people, build for the long game. Don't build funnels for profit. Build them for permanence. The internet will evolve. Platforms will rise and fall. Algorithms will change. But principles don't. The principle of service, the principle of storytelling, the principle of value, those are eternal. And if you build your business on those foundations, nothing can shake it. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you go from being a marketer to being a movement maker. And here's the best part. The more you give, the more fulfilled you feel, because fulfillment is the ultimate ROI. Fulfillment is waking up knowing that your work matters, your story matters, your mission matters. Fulfillment is when you realize that the thing you built doesn't just serve you, it serves the world. And that's what I want for every single one of you, because this world doesn't need more marketers. It needs more messengers. It needs people who believe in something so deeply that they can't stay silent. It needs leaders who turn their pain into purpose, their message into movement, their funnels into freedom. That's how you do the impossible, not by chasing money, but by chasing meaning. Not by selling harder, but by serving deeper. Not by building followers, but by building believers. That's the secret of all secrets, the heart of DotCom Secrets. Funnels may create cash flow, but purpose creates legacy. And when you build your business with both, when profit and purpose walk hand in hand, you become unstoppable. That's when you stop living someone else's plan and start writing your own. That's when the work stops being work and starts being worship. That's when you realize that success was never about you. It was about what flows through you. And when that happens, everything changes. Your income changes, your impact changes, your life changes. Your life changes because you're no longer chasing, you're creating. You're no longer surviving, you're serving. You're no longer asking, how do I make money? You're asking, how do I make meaning? And meaning is the one currency that never devalues. So when you walk out of here, I don't want you to think about your next funnel. I want you to think about your next transformation. Whose life will you change next? Who will hear your message and find hope again? Who will look back one day and say, but because of you, I didn't give up? That's your legacy. That's your freedom. That's your purpose. You were born for this. You were born to serve, to lead, to build, to believe. And if you've made it this far, I want you to know your story isn't over. This is just the beginning. You have everything you need. The tools, the strategy, the knowledge, but more importantly, you have the heart. And heart will always outperform hustle. Because the world doesn't remember what you built. It remembers how you made it feel. So build with love. Build with integrity. Build with intention. And when you do, your funnels will not just generate income, they'll generate impact. And that impact will echo through every life you touch. That's the real secret. That's the .com destiny. And it's yours. Now go build it. Go serve. Go create. Go lead. Go believe. Because when you do, you'll discover what I did. The greatest funnel you'll ever build isn't online. It's the one that leads straight to freedom. Merge